26 years for one Sunday in October, the greats of Aussie motorsport have come to conquer the mountain. Now the new world order is here, and for 161 laps, it's heart-wrenching hell and heaven. On the front row, history, family Richards eye to eye, Father Jim versus son Steve. There's Swedish flower power, florist Rickard Rydell red hot after smashing the lap record.
Surely that is not going to be beaten.
Murphy's Law, Greg Murphy, the Brits, Derek Warwick. Is this his touring car farewell? The Jones boy, Brad that is, the McLeans are showing. And Paul Morris is back to erase last year's bitter memories. There's the romantic Healings, the purring Porsches, and look who's back in the driver's seat. It's Brocky. The bumps, the bruises, the bone crunchers. From the mountain, the great race, an Australian tradition. The AMP Bathurst 1000, exclusive to the Masters of Motorsport. Channel 7.
Good morning, Australia, and welcome again to Mount Panorama. A special welcome to our viewers round the world taking our Channel 7 telecast of the Great Race. We are set for a feast of speed and endurance. Another slugfest between the best Australian and European super touring cars and drivers. And we could not have a better day for it. The weather has been superb in Bathurst the past several days. It continues to be so. Swooping in over the great Southern Ocean and over Tasmania, you can see some scattered cloud down in those areas. We come up the Australian east coast, swooping towards Bathurst in the central west of New South Wales. Some light scattered cloud, but otherwise absolutely glorious. 14 degrees the present time, maximum expected 20. Humidity at the moment, 93%. Not a breath of wind, although we do expect some light to moderate west to southwesterly winds later in the afternoon. Well, this race is full of good stories. The voice of Formula One, Murray Walker, joins us again. And Murray, just the top 10 itself, there's a dozen good stories in there.
It's quite incredible. Paul Morris in the Audi instead of the BMW last year. The two Richards on the front row of the grid. Rickard Rydell, an absolutely fabulous lap yesterday. Can he keep it up today? You could go on and on.
It left a lot of people breathless, that performance.
It was quite sensational. I mean, when you think that last year was his first year here, this is a difficult track to learn for newcomers. And the car, we expected to be frail, is not at all frail. And he's on a terrific high, Gary, because he's the reigning British champion.
We should point out we've got racing with class here at Mount Panorama today, and by that I mean we've got class racing once more. We've got New Zealand touring cars to support the super tours, and we've got a small number of local production cars as well. That's going to add an element of spice.
I think it's worth establishing too that they're inevitably going to be a lot slower. There's going to be a lot of traffic problems on the mountain today.
Right, let's check out the top 10 and the times that were posted yesterday, and here is this sensational 2 minutes 14.93 set by Rickard Rydell. But we should point out also that Volvo and Nissan have come to a deal, and father and son, Jim Richards and Steve Richards in the Volvo and Nissan, will start together from the front row of the grid.
Bathurst first, very much so. Going to be interesting to see how they get away. And then there's Nilsson and Tim Harvey in the second Volvo after that. Greg Murphy, Russell Ingall in the first of the Vectras.
Both former winners.
Absolutely, yeah. Derek Warwick, probably his last touring car race. John Cleland, double British champion. Paul Morris, as I said, in the Audi, and Paul Radisich, the New Zealander, double world champion in touring cars.
And he's been second here before as well. Jones and McConville, they desperately want to win this race. Brad in particular, he's been third, he's been second here before.
Gravitt and Brooks, privateers. Very, very good indeed, that is.
Three privateers in the top 10, including McLean and Scott
in the rear-wheel drive BMW, which won last year. And Peter Hills and Dominika Benenka in the Ford Mondeo, and that really is an underfunded private effort. It's a terrific achievement.
Now, highlight of race eve here at Mount Panorama is always the nerve-wracking top 10 shootout. Yesterday was no exception. The works teams were heavily represented, but there were 7 different makes of vehicle in the top 10. And the one-lap dash for pole produced possibly the greatest hot lap ever seen on this mountain.
The top 10 shootout was always going to be a David and Goliath affair. Sydney engineer Peter Hills fitted neatly into the David category. With a team of dedicated volunteers behind him, Hills threw his Mondeo around the mountain in 2:22.94. He remained in 10th spot. The Honda record of Lee Brooks proved a revelation. His best time during qualifying was a 2:19.4. Lee smashed almost half a second off that and jumped a place on the grid. He'll start 8th. Cameron McLean began his hot lap in the BMW, which won the great race last year, only to be later disqualified. McLean's 2:19.7 pushed he and Tony Scott back to 9th, but a new engine was fitted overnight. Paul Morris would have watched the Beamer with interest. He drove it last year, but after a stint in the Indy Lights Series stateside, he was back behind the wheel of a works Audi. He too eclipsed his best time and will start 6th. Derek Warwick was the first to crack the 2:18 barrier, producing a superb lap in the factory Vector. The ex-Formula One ace regards Mount Panorama as one of the great racetracks in the world, and after lapping in 2:17.31, he had no reason to change that opinion. Australia's reigning Super Touring champ Brad Jones was next out in the familiar Audi. After a frustrating week running into traffic jams, finally he had a clear track. But at 2:18.37 actually pushed him back 2 spots. Only 4 cars left. Tim Harvey took the first of the super quick Volvo S40s on his 1-lap dash. The affable Briton, another international driver in love with the track, was the first into the 2:16. Harvey's 2:16.47 was better, but only just when Richards Jr. in the red-hot Nissan Primera hit the track. Stephen Richards into first place, 2 cars left. One of them piloted by Swedish superstar Rickard Rydell. The current British touring car champion was quickest in every qualifying session bar 1. He wasn't about to be upstaged again.
So is this going to be the fastest lap we've had? When he did the warm-up, it was 2 minutes 15.85. The fastest lap we've had for the top 10 so far. Steve Richards, 2 minutes 16.4. This is going to be it. This is definitely going to be it. What a lap! 1.5 seconds faster. 2 minutes 14.9. Surely that is not going to be beaten.
His 2:14.93 was one of the great single-lap dashes ever seen at the mountain. That left 1 car, but Greg Murphy in the Vectra couldn't match the Volvo's awesome speed. His 2:16.78 was never going to be good enough. So it'll be Volvo, Nissan, Volvo, Vectra on the first 2 rows. But significantly, the front row for the first time will accommodate a father and his son. 5 times winner Jim Richards will partner Rydell. His son Stephen will steer the Primera. Gentleman Jim says they have a normal father-son relationship, but on the racetrack, Stephen is just another rival. We'll see as the great race unfolds this afternoon.
You know, for many in the touring car world, a victory in this great race is now the most sought-after prize in motorsport. And Rickard Rydell, the newly crowned champion of the British Series, is among more than 30 overseas drivers taking part this year and hoping to stand up on the dais at the end of the race and spray that champagne.
Overseas drivers have become a traditional part of Australia's great race, and this year is no exception. More than 1/3 of them call somewhere other than Australia home, making this one of the most international Bathurst 1000s ever. Amongst more than 30 foreigners, the stars of the BTCC are back too. They just love Mount Panorama and admit there's nowhere else quite like it.
A lot of drivers say Spa is their favourite circuit, but they haven't been here, obviously, because Spa is another nice flowing track. But this one has got a combination of both a good street circuit and a good normal racing circuit.
I've been lucky in my life. I've driven at Spa, Nürburgring, all the so-called great circuits. But every beginning of the year, I look forward to coming to Bathurst, because it is the greatest circuit that I've ever driven on.
For the teams, it also provides quite a challenge. Last year, by their own admission, they were less than impressive when it came to the all-important pit stops, often losing much of the hard-won time on the track by spending too long changing wheels and adding fuel.
We've learned an awful lot from last year's event. We've had pit stops in the British Touring Car Championship this year. We've learned a lot from that as well, so combine the 2 things together, I hope we can be really competitive this year.
Many of the Super Tourers started life in the UK, but the Volvo, Nissan and Vectra entries are the very latest examples of the breed. The Rydell, Richards and Nielsen Harvey entries are fresh from the workshops of the legendary TWR. Rydell has just sewn up the British Touring Car crown and will be a tough man to beat this weekend, paired with the 5-time winner Jim Richards. The second of the Volvos is crewed by 97 Swedish Touring Car champ Jan Flash Nielsen and the UK's Tim Harvey. The Englishman is returning to Volvo after 3 disastrous years with Peugeot and has a point to prove.
Tim Harvey had an awful year in England. He wants to show that he's very quick, which he is, so that's not the problem. I had a year in Sweden, which I finished second in the championship, losing out to the BMW. So I want to win a race again. That would be good.
All of the top teams have gone for a blend of local and overseas talent. Team Vectra has 2 cars, one for Aussie pair Russell Ingall and Greg Murphy, and one for British aces Derek Warwick and John Cleland. Warwick has been there, seen it and done it at all levels of the sport, including winning Le Mans, while Cleland is a confirmed Bathurst addict and aims to add the great race to a CV that includes 2 British touring car titles. Nissan have made a low-key entry with Stephen Richards and Matt Neal paired in one of their Primeras. But don't be fooled into thinking this is just a quick privateer. The car is one of 6 built for this season, and much of the team has been borrowed from the factory outfit. Richards is Nissan's official test driver, and Matt Neal has shown the works drivers the way to go on more than one occasion this year. The others should not underestimate them.
We're quietly confident. We think Steve's very hot round this circuit. You stick him in a horse and cart and he's going to go quick round here. So you stick him in a car as good as the 98 Nissan Primera, and the guy should be untouchable in qualifying. It's just a question whether we can hold it all together for the race.
The overseas influence doesn't end there. Another former British champion, Rob Gravett, lines up in his Honda Accord. And even the all-conquering Audi team have drafted in a little help from double World Cup winner Paul Radicic. The British touring car teams and drivers have their best chance of victory here in over a decade. They should be faster, more reliable, and spend less time here in pit lane.
Time to welcome Tracy Holmes to our studio now. She spent the last couple of days here filling her lungs with the fumes and getting her ears battered by the decibels.
But isn't that wonderful? It is so good to feel your brain rattling inside your head. It's really exciting. It does
rattle, and yesterday's top 10 would have had you jumping up and down, I'm sure.
It was really good. I was standing in the pits actually, so as they each pulled in, we could quickly check their times, and you know, the Rickard Rydell time was absolutely sensational.
Where did you watch it from?
In the pits.
Did you? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So they came zooming by, you know. It was almost tempting to run out there and say, put me in the car, let me have a go.
Hey, a ride around here is well worth it if you haven't tried it. Maybe Rickard could oblige tomorrow morning before they get...
Well, maybe. I don't know if I'd be game enough because I saw Peter Brock out there sitting in the passenger seat. I don't think it's the way to go.
Good to have you with us here, Tracy, and I'll leave you in control of the studio for the rest of the day while I head to the mayhem on the grid.
Have a great call.
Thanks a lot.
One of the toughest motor races in the world is the AMP Bathurst 1000 because the biggest obstacle is the unique Mount Panorama circuit itself. To win, the car must be tough on all fronts, and the driver needs to be tough on 2 fronts, both mental and physical. And as Alan Moffat explains, on top of all of that, add the ingredient of luck.
Bathurst is about survival as much as winning, and this track has 1,000 ways to bring you undone. From the starting grid, it's a short, sharp dash to the 90-degree left-hander at Hell Corner. Then a long charge at maximum revs up Mountain Straight and into the right-hand climb through Griffin's Bend.
But there are no guarantees you'll even get started. In a famous case of gridlock in 1984, clutch failure stranded Tom Walkinshaw's British Jaguar, and the resulting mayhem cancelled 2 other cars as well.
It does get frantic, and the key is to keep your head. Unfortunately, someone else is bound to be losing theirs, and I well remember almost being punted over the pit wall in my Mazda RX-7 that same year.
Mountain Straight means foot to the floor, slipstreaming and jockeying for position before the critical climbing turns ahead.
At Griffin's, it's an off-camber corner and a trap if you don't get it just right, like yours truly, over-anxious on the throttle in my Falcon back in '73.
But you've got to keep the boot in because it takes a lot of horses to haul 1,000 kilos of machinery up the 1 in 6 grade through the cutting and AMP turn, onwards and upwards, and finally onto that high-speed sweep of Castrol Curve, McPhillamy and Skyline.
The cutting has ended many a race. There's no room for error, yours or even anyone else's, because the walls are waiting. Alan Jones discovered that in his Williams Renault last year. And it's a dangerous place to have the adrenaline and the gas pedal pumping simultaneously. That combination wiped out both Larry Perkins and Neville Crichton on just the 3rd lap of the '87 race.
Accelerating through AMP turn, climbing to Reed Park, there are no guarantees, not even in front.
This is where Dick Johnson encountered the infamous rock in 1980. It ended his race, but it sure put his career into overdrive. And it was charging too hard on a deflating tire on the bend to Reed Park in '82 that saw Kevin Bartlett switch to channel 6 in a big Chevy Camaro.
On top of the mountain, you're pushing 180 clicks to Sulman Park and Castrol Curve.
No place to be out of shape, not even for an ace like 9-time winner Peter Brock, whose race ended just a handful of laps short of the finish in '94.
And at these speeds, kissing the curbs can make even the big boys cry.
The slightest bump and the car's off balance, with disastrous consequences. A sharp reminder for Britain's Win Percy during qualifying for the race one year.
Yes, and I remember you paid the penalty for getting the right rear off the edge in qualifying the year that you drove for Brock.
Did I ever, Gary? That was '86. The car speared left would have gone clear off the mountain if it hadn't been for that wall. Some say there's too much concrete around Bathurst, but I'd rather play Humpty Dumpty than join the astronaut corps any day.
The big sand trap on the right, it's a feature at McPhillamy today, but it used to be a fence, a steel cable fence, scene of one of the great escapes in motorsport for Bill Brown back in '71.
Skyline is famous for the view, but who's looking? Your heart's in your mouth as you spear off the edge, unable to see the track falling away in front of you.
It does make for some distracting moments. Tony Roberts sure had a memorable one in 1970.
Coming off the top, you're making split-second decisions that can affect your whole run downhill. Through the S's, the gut-wrenching dipper, and forced elbow turn. That sets you on the long haul down Conrod Straight. So you brake hard off Skyline, and you've got to time it just right. John English got it wrong in '84 and almost rode the wall through the S's.
Yes, and this is no place to tangle with the traffic either, because the dipper comes up very, very fast. That's how and where Britain's Andy Rouse concertinaed a Brock Sierra in 1990.
If you're still running, gun it through the dipper, then savage on the brakes and tuck left at the elbow. Power down and drift through the corner for maximum exit speed onto Conrod.
And avoid the walls, although there was no wall on the right when Dick Johnson made his spectacular exit into the trees during qualifying in '83.
The weather always compounds every error, and that combination red flagged the race barely 20 laps from the checkered flag in '92. Jim Richards, winning Nissan GTR, finished on the back of a salvage truck.
Conrod Straight is mostly that for almost 2 kilometres, save for the high-speed chicane at the chase. Then it's 90 degrees left at the bottom at Murray's Corner and onto Pitt Straight once more.
Conrod is also no place to relax. At speeds over 280 kilometers, things come unglued awfully quickly, whether it's driver error or component failure. And Dick Johnson had a wild ride in 1988 when a tire let go on his Sierra.
They took some of the straight out of Conrod about 10 years back when they put in that left-right sweep at the chase. It's a test of nerve and skill, but it hasn't slowed him down very much, and it is an unforgiving place when things go wrong, even for someone like Peter Brock.
Out of the chase, past the pit entry lane, and charging into Murray's. You'd better hope you've still got brakes. There have been some pretty spectacular failures. With luck, you can flick right and down the escape road to Bathurst. Who knows, the Lord Mayor might be waiting for you out of harm's way. But without it, you'll be doing a kamikaze like Japan's Kariyama in '77.
Back onto the start-finish straight. Pits are on the left, and Alan, your race could just as easily be won or lost in there.
Yes, Gary, well, my chances went up in smoke one year in a nightmare refueling fire. At least we got the regulations changed, and that will never happen again.
But there were no regulations for this refueling technique. The delay cost Peter Williamson a class win that year.
Every lap survived on Mount Panorama is a victory, but unless you're still there on the last one, all the others count for nothing.
So, winning the AMP Bathurst 1000 means 161 times through Hell Corner and all of the others without a major mishap.
But when you do get it right, Gary, when all the planning and hard work come together on the day, and I've been privileged 4 times to know what that's like, there's no greater prize in Australian motorsport.
"22 rows of cars down there on the starting grid prior to their 161 grueling laps in perfect weather of this magnificent Mount Panorama circuit.
Well, what do you think, Alan?
I noticed that no one's giving away their pit stop strategies, Murray. Lap 40 is what is necessary, 41 to be precise, if you're going to stop 3 times, but lap 32 otherwise. And now we're going back down to the pits for a closer look with Pat Welsh.
Alan, thank you very much. Well, this is a picture of relaxation. We're only 15 minutes before the start of the great race. Derek, John and Brad all standing around having a chat like it's a Sunday morning. It is a Sunday morning, but very relaxed, as I said.
How long until it starts? 15 minutes. Cloud cover. I've been looking for that all day. Oh, too bad.
Yes, you just said it's a shame the weather's so perfect.
Yeah, it's a pity, really. I mean, the Audis, we were hoping for a little bit of wet weather, which was looking like early in the week, and it's not now, so we just have to make the most of it. But really, the car's strong. Cameron's going to start because he's young and it's hot, and we'll see what happens as the race ticks by.
Now, how did you two youngsters decide who was going to start this morning?
Well, we had a fight last night and I won.
The car going absolutely superbly all the way through the week.
Well, you know, John and I have concentrated on the full tank runs to get a race set up. We're happy with our race set up. It's a long race. We need a bit of luck, and we think that if we have a bit of luck, we can win this motor race.
Alan Moffat just saying that most teams reasonably secretive about their pit stop ideas for today. Are you going to give us any ideas?
We'll tell you what we're doing. We're going to stop at 70 laps, and then another 70 laps, and we'll just have a splash in the dash for the last 21. If things are going okay, that is.
We wouldn't lie.
You know, the only thing that I'm really pleased about is Brad's not starting this race. I don't have to race against him. I have heard so much about you, Brad.
Because he's doing
good.
Guys, very best of luck. Thanks for talking with us, and I think David Tapper's talking with Paul Radisich.
Indeed, Pat. Paul, it must be a very nerve-wracking time for a race car driver sitting on the grid just before a race of such importance. What's going through your mind at the moment?
Well, I'm just thinking how I'm going to get this thing off the start line. I've never started a four-wheel drive before, so I'm just thinking about how I'm going to ease it off the line, so to speak.
How tough is it to temper the adrenaline, the natural racer that comes out in you? Obviously, it's important in the first lap to consolidate a good spot, but you can't go crazy. It's a long day.
Yeah, it is. You know, the racer in you wants to be in the first corner first, but, you know, I think we want to make a good start, but also you've got to hold back just a little bit because it is such a long day, and, you know, it's not one on the first corner.
You're something of an endurance specialist. You've won big races all over the world. How does Bathurst rank amongst them?
Mate, it's number 1. It really ranks right up there. It's a fantastic track to drive on from a driver's point of view. And it's about trying to conserve your equipment and yet push on as hard as you can. So Bathurst is ranked right up there as far as the endurance race goes.
Good luck to you today. Here's Gary Wilkinson.
Ladies and gentlemen, could I ask for your attention, please, for the national anthem to be performed by the talented 16-year-old Bathurst alto soprano, Helen Sherman.
Australians, all let us rejoice, for we are young and free. We've golden soil and wealth for toil, our home is girt by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gifts of beauty rich and rare. In history's page let every stage advance Australia fair. In joyful strains then let us sing, advance Australia fair.
Well, it's too good an opportunity to pass up. While Peter Brock is here with us, standing on the front of the grid to say those magic words.
Well, I wish I was out there, but ladies and gentlemen, start your engines.
Down now, and Murray's corner, right at the bottom centre of your screen, that 90-degree left-hander. And car 12 there is Cameron McLean's BMW, a possible winner in this race. He's on the 5th row of the grid.
And they said there that netting there, incidentally, is to stop their arms flying out if the window is open and the car goes off the track and turns over, which hopefully that one certainly will not do. It's the Volvo of Jim Richards. And there, number 4, is the Volvo of Tim Harvey with his Swedish co-driver Jan Nilsson. One of the Vectras up there, and it is very close to starting time of the 1998 Bathurst 1000.
Another history-making moment. Father and son, Jim Richards, Stephen Richards, Volvo, Nissan, front row of the grid. Who will win the race to the first corner? That remains to be seen. Volvo, Nissan, Volvo, then 2 Vectras, 2 Audis, a Honda, a BMW and a Ford Mondeo. They are the top 10. The flag is dropped and away they go, and Jim Richards is first down the blocks. He's got the run in the inside of the hill corner. Stephen Richards powering up on the outside but won't be able to get round him. He's trying, but he will not get there.
Up towards Volvo bend, the right-hander, and it's Steve Richards on the inside. He's got the advantage on the right-hand bend, and he takes the lead from his father, Jim Richards, with Russell Ingle in the Vectra in 3rd position, swarming all over the boot end of the Volvo, challenging at the start of the race. So it's Nissan leading, Volvo 2nd, Vectra in 3rd position, climbing up towards the highest point of the course, and Steve Richards, of course, knows this track absolutely magnificently. He's raced here many times before, and his car's beautifully set up for it. And it's still the Volvo behind him, then the Vectra, and going through in 4th position. That looks like, could it be surely the Honda of Rob Gravett? He couldn't have come up
He has.
so quickly. It's incredible.
He's made a terrific start, and he's got the Audi trying to find a way past him, but Gravett has made a terrific start. He's gone to 4th. They expected to do better in the top 10, and he's really putting a point to prove now and making sure that the Honda is getting right up ahead there of the Audis and onto the tail of the first 3.
And he's holding the 2 Audis up. But it's an incredible start by Rob Gravett. He was 8th on the grid on the 4th row, and already he is in 4th position. As the rest of them go streaming through, I haven't seen any defectors on the way. They all seem to have gone away clearly, including Anderton from the pit lane. He started from the pit lane when everybody else had gone through.
The start by Rob Gravett highlights the fact that you pointed up yesterday, Murray, that Lee Brooks drove the qualifying, which did surprise us.
Yes, indeed, and it's quite deliberate. They put Brooks in for the qualifying so that Gravett could start. He's got more experience. He's raced at Bathurst several times before in all sorts of motor cars. There is Gravett. There the Audi behind him. The Audi with the yellow mirrors, and Paul Morris is right behind him. Oh, no, it's not. It's the Volvo. It's the 2nd Volvo of Tim Harvey, number 4. Tim Harvey swarming all over the boot lid of the Audi and trying to go through. 1 lap completed, only 160 laps still to go. It's a long, long way.
It sure is, but Stephen Richards showed us that he's determined to make every lap count. Jim actually got off the line first, but it was the 2nd gear acceleration in Stephen's Nissan that got him through the first corner and then was able to challenge Dad up Mountain Straight. But here, very aggressive driving by Tim Harvey. He doesn't want the lead escaping him. He wants to get right up there with those first 3 lead cars and giving his Volvo S40 everything he's got.
And very aggressive driving by Brad Jones in the Audi too.
Yeah, look at him. We're looking through his windscreen now at the Volvo ahead of Tim Harvey, climbing up to that blue sky. That's a wonderful sign here at Bathurst. We were warned that we might have bad weather today. It looks as though that is certainly not going to happen. It's Cameron McConville, and there's Rob Gravett. Behind him, the Volvo.
Now getting hounded by Tim Harvey. Harvey was very effective in qualifying yesterday. His teammate, of course, eclipsed his time, but he handled his own Volvo in exemplary fashion, and he wants to get up here with this lead group, which is Stephen Richards, followed by Jim Richards, followed by Russell Ingle.
And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 cars rocketing down Conrod Straight together, and really, really motoring, because they're building up to 265 Ks as they approach the Caltech chase for the 2nd time. So, Audi, Honda, Vectra. Gravett is very anxious to get back into a works car for the British Touring Car Championship next year. If he does well here, he'll stand a very good chance of doing that.
He's lost 2 places on this lap, and there have been a few puffs of smoke from the back of the Honda there.
Right, well, Gravett may have a problem, but meantime, here is Steve Richards up front in the Nissan Primera. And behind him is his dad, Jim Richards, in the Volvo. There it is over the crest as he comes up to Volvo Bend. Appropriately, Jim Richards in the Volvo following Stephen. There is young Stephen. And Stephen not only knows this track so well, he knows the car because he's been in Britain for the whole of the season of 1998, working as the test and development driver for Nissan.
He's the fastest man on the circuit as we take a look at a replay of an incident that happened a moment or two ago.
Yes, Cameron McConville. We said he was driving aggressively. Well, he got a little bit too aggressive there and hung the tail out at the cutting and clipped the wall.
Richards, look at it. That car is absolutely as steady as a rock. If you talk to them, they will say we were the fastest of the independents. Well, it depends how you define independent. They were certainly independent in the British Touring Car Championship, but they seem to me to be very dependent on a lot of Nissan personnel here today. And it's amazing how quickly even a long race like this goes when you're sitting and watching it. We're into lap 8 already. It seems only a few moments since it began. And there you can see that you see exactly what I was talking about there. The car moves over. That was actually a very considerate bit of driving by Mike Fitzgerald in the Peugeot 405, car 23. He moved over and let Tim Harvey through. And you can see beautifully from McConville's car the racing line that Tim Harvey's taking.
Yes, and you can see the beautiful line that Cameron McConville's taking. He's a very accomplished young driver. He's doing extremely well. His career is about to explode. He's capable of driving just about anything he wants or anything that he's offered. And here we are in the driver's seat. He's in the left-hand drive body. A nice little advantage, of course. The Swedish team have also elected to run their left-hand drive cars. Very smart move at Bathurst. Anti-clockwise circuit. Drivers in the inside of all the tight corners like we've just gone through. Tire power there at Forest Elbow. Doesn't make much difference on Conrad, naturally. But here we have McConville shadowing the Volvo S40 of Tim Harvey.
Boom, out of the left-hander at Forest Elbow. The revs rise, the speed rises, the Volvo accelerates away, followed by the Audi, which we are in. Now watch the way that Tim Harvey closes up on and rockets past the tail-enders. I can't see who that is until Cameron McConville goes by. Hopefully I'll see his race number. I just called it. Car 61 was Peter Van Breugel's Nissan Sentra. And that comes all the way from New Zealand. Harvey goes through. Look at him. He's cutting through these tail-enders like a hot knife through butter, followed by McConville. It's still Steve Richards up front. Father Jim behind him, so it is still Nissan leading. Volvo second. The Vectra of Russell Ingall in third position. Tim Harvey's Volvo that you're looking at is in fourth place. Cameron McConville's car is fifth. They're both going past the tail ender now, and McConville closes up on the boot lid and into the pits. Car 15 there is Mark Anderton's Honda Accord, which started from the pit lane.
Let's have a look at this passing manoeuvre from the race cam in Cameron McConville's Audi as he got past Tim Harvey.
Here we go up through AMP turn. Here's what's caused the trouble. Tim Harvey's elected to go left, can't make up his mind how to get by car 77, and that's all the invitation Cameron McConville needed. He slipped through on the right. He was just nicely placed. I think just a bit of poor judgment there on Tim Harvey's part.
Malcolm Rear's Toyota Carina was the guilty party. He would say, I was doing the best I could. I was on my racing line. What am I supposed to do? Jump in the air and let him drive underneath me?
Get out and sweep the rock clean for me.
Cameron McConville might have had a completely different point of view. Alan Jim Richards, 51 years old. He's not an old man, heaven knows.
But certainly not, Murray. We can vouch for that, can't we?
I can give him a few years. But how fit is he?
Oh, extremely. He's been competing regularly throughout the seasons, and although not as active as he would have liked to have been in the initial Australian Supercar Championships, he has done so this year with Volvo. He's won 3 in a row, Targa Tasmanias, and that's not an easy feat to achieve. he can drive anything that you put on him.
Yeah, we're with John Cleland now. John Cleland in 6th place in the Vauxhall Vectra.
And Paul Radicic in the Audi just slipped past him.
Cheerio, Paul.
Oh,
Cheerio,
no.
Paul. No. Cheerio, John.
Yeah, he tried to get back at him, but couldn't do it around the outside of Murray's corner.
John Cleland got the outside there. Paul Radicic's got the inside of the corner, and of course that gives you the line advantage.
Well, it gives us the line, Murray, and everybody else that's watching us. This is just superb entertainment. We're able to see precisely what these drivers are doing, and we can monitor their position vis-a-vis the track and the walls and the positions of the other car. Let's remind the world, this technology was invented by Channel 7 here in Australia 2 decades ago and has been adopted around the world in every form of motorsport.
Alan, I used to sit at home and watch the great race and watch the swiveling cameras and listen to the drivers talking about somebody who's coming up behind them. The camera would turn around and have a look, and there he was. Great stuff. Now look at John Cleland. He hasn't given up. John Cleland, 7th position now. Paul Radicic in front of him. There is Tim Harvey, number 4 in the Volvo, which is still, well, he's in 5th position behind McConville. And now things are starting to close up. The traffic is really making things. There's Paul Morris, the man who won last year, only to lose the race on a technicality. It was taken away from him. And then the Brabham brothers went up there to win the great race of last year. The top driver from overseas at the present moment is Tim Harvey. There he is in car number 4, the Volvo, and he is determined to get past Cameron McConville's Audi with the yellow mirrors, which is in front of him. You will recall we saw a marvellous shot from McConville's car as Tim Harvey was balked. McConville shot past and moved up into 4th place.
Slower traffic's not the only hazard on the track here at Mount Panorama this weekend.
Well, there's Aussie fauna and flora for you, if ever. I must say I've never seen that before, Gary. We've had a few things on the track here over the years, but that's the first time I've seen a kangaroo.
I've seen hares at Silverstone, and I think he's going to try and go through this time as they come up to Caltech's chase, and he squeezes through. Yes, Tim Harvey squeezes, but you're shaking your head. You don't approve.
No, I do approve, but that's a very brave move, Murray. That was on the outside coming through the chase, and really not the way to have it. Cameron re-exerted himself, and something there happened while I was shaking my head.
And look at John Cleland. He's moving up through the field. Number 8, John Cleland. We heard you were saying it just now that he's a tactician and he'll be taking things easy. He's not taking things particularly easy at the moment because he is now ahead of Tim Harvey's Volvo.
Well, it all went a bit wrong for Tim there, didn't it?
He's trying extremely hard. I think he is getting a little bit frustrated, but every time he tries to go that extra yardage, he's having trouble, and he gets himself out shuffled.
So let's just establish where everybody is. Steve Richards is still leading on lap 16, which is the 1/10th race distance, followed by Jim Richards. Russell Eagle is still 3rd. Cameron McConville in the yellow mirrored Audi, there it is in 4th place, ahead of Paul Radicic now, the 2nd Audi. So the Audis are starting to make a move. Hello, what's that? Let's have a close look at that.
It's a big tire burn.
Yes, smoke pouring. He's obviously had some panel damage, and the front wing, it looks the right front wing, is obviously bearing on the side wall of the tyre.
He's on Conrad, but this is a
Hyundai.
I think it's the Hyundai, yes.
Yeah, that's
Paul Pickett.
Yeah, that's number
car 58.
Yeah.
With that amount of rubber being torn off the tire, it's still a long way to the pits for him to get safely in, so watch for that tire to shred still.
I remember that car very well from last year with that very distinctive colour scheme, and they had a lot of problems. It looks as though they're going to have a lot of problems in 1998 as well, as have Adderton and Jamie Wall with the Honda Accord there.
And car 90 is also in there. Toyota Corona of Bernie Gillen and Paul Pedersen changing a gearbox, so they'll be there for a while.
We're riding with Cameron McLean's car, the Greenfield Mowers sponsored car, the car that won the race last year, and Cameron is coming out of Forest Elbow onto Conrod Straight with the grids building up. And look at the telemetry there. That shows you the revs. He's coming up to some 8,000 RPM. You can see the speed building all the time as he comes down the Caltex chase. He's in top gear, obviously. Bit hot in the cabin, 26 degrees.
258 as he went through the chase, Murray, and now dropping it down through into second gear, 113k still, accelerating up in third gear, down towards under the Michelin Bridge for your corner, Murray, the left-hander at the end of Conrad.
Thank you, I wish it was. And he's car number 42, he's going through now to lap him, and Cameron McLean is just driving a very sensible, careful race. He knows what lap times he should be doing. He's in 8th position. We've been saying that laps round about 220 are going to win this race if you can keep it up. He's doing about 221 at the present moment.
He's a driver who's made giant strides in the last couple of seasons, Cameron McLean. He had his first start here only last year in a Volvo he shared with Jan Nielsen, and here he is running his own team with his father, team manager John McLean, Tony Scott co-driver, a Queensland operation, and as I said, they're here for the long haul.
He's on lap 22 out of 161. You watch the track, I'll tell you what's happening. Steve Richards is still ahead of his father, so Nissan leads Volvo. Russell Ingall is still third in the Holden Vectra. Cameron McConville and Paul Radicic in the Audi Quattros are 4th and 5th. John Cleland is 6th. Tim Harvey is 7th, and we are riding with Cameron McLean in 8th position.
They've turned the engine off. He's out of the car.
Ron Rabbit, that's the British touring car champion of 1990. Obviously, if I can use the word, gutted, because he's very unhappy, and David Tapp is waiting to talk to him.
Indeed, you must be, well, can I use the expression? Not unhappy, are you?
Yeah, it's a shame. It looks like the diff's broken. We've been using this diff all year. I've never had a problem with it, and I haven't touched the curb since I've been out there, so just one of those things. It's just a long way to come to have a problem occur with the car that we've never had a problem with all year. It's a shame because we're running to a pace. The car was good, the tyres were very good, the brakes were good. We're trying to be careful because we don't think it's a sprint race, and clearly something's broken. There's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah. That looks more than a gaffer tape job to me, Alan.
That's what they're going to try and do, but Clark, of course, will have his own ideas. I think they need to throw a new front spoiler on it, Murray, for the car to be safe. We've seen cars go out with yeah, they're going to try and pull the whole guard off. That's going to be a bit of a...
And this again, I say with the greatest of respect, we see obviously the difference between a well-trained team who've practiced for every eventuality and one that is having to deal with something for the first time. They're doing the best they can with those metal snips.
Yes,
Paula Elstrick. Sorry, Alan, no, I was just going to point out Paula Elstrick staying in the car. They're not anticipating a driver change at this point. She's 30 years of age, comes from Melbourne, and she's got some degree of driving experience, mostly in karts. She drove in that all-female Mazda 121 series a couple of seasons back, and in local hill climb championships in Victoria with some success.
She is quite a hill climb driver, and she was very much the quickest of the three drivers in this car, so in great shape to see us. Let's take a look and see if we can see exactly what happened to Paula Elstrick in a replay.
Down in the dipper, and she's gone straight ahead. Just misjudged her braking on the exit of the dipper, and that's a very unforgiving part of the car, part of the track.
Russell Ingall and still now Russell Ingall in the Vectra loosening his seatbelt, and hello, we're with the Audi here. Bit of a problem going through as he turns into Murray Corner and along the pit straight, up on the curbing, and his right wheels go onto the grass, lose traction there, and it's the car number 2, Paul Radicic, going wide there, and lets his teammate through, past him.
He might have been over anxious to make way for McConville there and got himself into strife.
And here's the first official stop for the Holden team, and Greg Murphy going in.
David Tapp's there.
Yes, we'll go the first of what should be 3 or 4 stops for the Vectra team. Very slick change too, and it's something they've worked on very hard over the last few months in the lead up to Bathurst. As people know, it was a rather shabby part of their teamwork last year, well, below expectations anyway. That was very slick for the front-wheel drive Vectra.
The aftermath of what could have been disastrous in the pits. The number 8 Vectra came in. Derek Warwick in the car now. John Cleland getting out. They had a fuel fire. It was controlled very quickly. I don't know whether John Cleland might have been caught up in it, but I noticed he was rushed, hustled out of the pits very quickly by the crew. Let's have a look at it on replay. Well,
John's taking a puff of something. He's feeling disturbed there. You can see him crouched over. Hope he hasn't taken a lungful of it.
That didn't look like John Cleland to me. Are you sure? I think it's the car. I think it's the pit further down, actually, Gary. I wouldn't like to... the truck's in front of the Vauxhall pit, but Cleland had gone round the back of the car into the garage. I saw that happen, and I think it was the car... It's the garage next where they had the fire, but there was so much foam. It's the Williamson-Newman garage, I think, that had the problem. No?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, here's Radicic in for his scheduled stop, so none of them are making it to 40.
It's one of the pit crew. Yeah, I apologise. It certainly wasn't John Cleland. Anyway, that's good. That's good news. Sorry about the man who caught it. I'm very glad it wasn't John Cleland. Now, number 2 in there is Paul Radicic, the Audi driver. And it's Paul Morris in the flowered helmet, painted flowers, who has taken over.
Should give that one to Rickard Rydell, shouldn't he?
This is their first stop. They've made it to lap 34, so they're in the window for a 4-stage stop. There's no way that they're going to get any further. Seems to be a fairly organized stop. The car's down. Started and in gear and away.
To the pits comes race leader Steve Richards. Now we'll be able to watch this and see how it compared with the Vectra stop and the Audi stop. And Pat Welsh is there.
Larry, I'm dashing down there now, but it will be a regulation stop. The interesting thing here with this is there's such a huge height difference between Steve Richards and Matt Neal that they actually change steering wheels. They actually change steering wheels in this pit stop once the drivers change. But it seems to be, the bonnet is up. I'm getting up there now. We'll check what is happening.
Move it, Paddy.
Well, I'll tell you, let me tell you something about Matt Neal, because there is going to be the most gigantic pressure on Matt Neal now, driving car 34. Matt is the son of the man who runs 100-plus wheels and sponsors him, and he is a driver who's never had the recognition he deserves. He's won the British Touring Car Independence Championship twice, but he's missed out on the Works Drive. He's been driving for a long time. Somehow people just never think of him.
Now, I'll tell you what, we might have been a little bit cruel to him earlier on as well. We were saying about the pace of the 2 drivers within the car, because Matt, throughout qualifying, was in fact only about 4 or 5 tenths a lap slower than his teammate Steve Richards. They rejoined in 4th spot.
Coming to the pits.
Jim Richards in from the lead. He took the lead, of course, when his son came in. Now, seatbelts undone. And the Volvo, what was that time for the previous one?
37 seconds.
37 seconds. They'll be doing it. And Pat Welsh will be there.
Here he is, nice clean stop in his box, in his spot. And all tires off and on. Single wheel nut, as we've talked before. There's no great problem about throwing the wheel on, but they have to be careful when they put the wheel nut on before they hit it with the air guns. And the first of the Audis in. The lead car, Cameron McConville, coming in to change over to Brad Jones.
So Steve Richards came in, Jim Richards came in, and Pat is down there.
Jim Richards in, and I know Ricard has been pacing around nervously. He's had the earplugs in and the helmet ready to go for some time, and a big round of applause for the Volvo boys. They're very, very happy with that stop. As out goes Ricard Rydell.
Amazing, he rejoined still in the lead. And did you notice the concentration in his eyes? Ricard's eyes normally fairly set back in his head, and they were almost sticking out as he went out of the pit lane. He is really concentrating.
35 seconds that time. This Volvo team getting better at these pit stops.
Great pit stop then. So out goes the Volvo with Ricard Rydell in the lead still, having taken over from Jim Richards, who brought it in.
And out goes the Audi as well, with Cameron McConville out of the car. Brad Jones now behind the wheel of the number 1 Oryx Audi.
Great strategy, Murray, if you can maintain that lead. You know how important that is in Formula One, but this is a terrific act for the Volvos to be able to come in and get back out and maintain that pace.
Yeah, and there is the Nissan with Matt Neal. Matt Neal, who's about 6'3" at the wheel, which explains why they have to change the steering wheel and change the seat.
Okay, after all the shuffling there with the pit stops, let's get another analysis of the race at this stage from Peter Brock.
Well, we're really starting to get some action now because pit stop's well and truly underway. And I notice that with the Nissan now back in the race, probably vying for the lead. But the major thing I've found is compound changes of tyres. The drivers are all claiming that the hot temperature, the softer compounds, not quite working out. One of them here is John Cleland. John, car was a little bit sketty towards the end.
It was a bit scary from halfway through, really. The tyre that Derek chose to do the top 10 runoff obviously was the tyre we had to start the race on, which was a little softer than we would have liked. And going through BP Cutting and down through Forest Elbow, I was having about a half-ton lock more than I really ought to have done, and it was a bit frightening over the top of the mountain.
Now, you're also helping the pit crew out.
Yeah, we appear to have a minor fire on that pit stop, which I think captured everyone's attention. What happened, I'm really not very sure, but Derek left complete with the pipe for the fuel still in, with the vent bottle sticking out the other side. Fortunately, the team manager shouted to him to stop. I ran up, pulled the vent bottle out, and unfortunately, I think one of our guys caught fire. I'm not really sure how he is. I don't think it was too serious, but...
No, I just went and saw him in the car, and the first aid boys are there, and he's looking okay. But a lot of incidents starting to occur. But the Vauxhall boys back on track, looking good. But gee, you've got to take your hat off to the boys in the Nissan and the Jimmy Richards, Ricard Rydell Volvo. Back to you guys.
Well, meantime, back in the race, look at this, because here is the Volvo with the Nissan right up behind it. So, Ricard Rydell in the lead now, and Matthew Neal challenging him. The British Touring Car Champion of 1998 lead, and Matthew Neal is having a go at him. I don't know whether this is wise at this stage of the race. What does a chap of your experience think?
Not on those opening laps for him, Murray. He's having a bit of an aggressive go here. Rydell is settling himself down. He won't like the fact that he sees a Nissan flashing in his rearview mirror. But let's just see how these two unfold. I wouldn't be as aggressive at this particular point, but obviously Neil doesn't want to let him get away.
I know Rydell's making that Volvo pretty wide actually at the moment, and it was interesting. I know the team had said that one of the reasons that they wanted Richards to start the car was because Neil had actually raced against Rydell before and knew a lot more about the way that he drove, and therefore if they were going to be on the circuit and close together, that was a better way to keep it.
Tim Harvey, I said to you, you sipped on water here. Was it hot work here then? You were pretty happy with it.
No, I was very comfortable in the car, actually. There's a real good breeze in the car. We've got some big vents in there. And I was very comfortable. It's only when you stop when you feel a bit hot.
So the other team's complaining that perhaps the tyre's not quite right today. There's a little bit of slipping and sliding. How were the Volvos?
Yeah, I mean, it was moving about quite a bit, sort of halfway through the session towards the end. But I was anxious to get in a full session on the fuel and not drop back behind on the pit stop, so I just drove it carefully.
Well, we got
Jim, nip and tuck up front right now, I think, with Ricard. And Steve has just jumped out of the car, Matt Neal. Obviously, it's going to be a great race between you, and it already has been, hasn't it?
Well, it has been, yes. I mean, our first thing was just to keep the leaders inside, or be the leader, whichever was the easiest. And it was easy to let Steve in front, because I couldn't actually pass it. I had to caught him up anyway. So the strategy was to keep Steve within sight, be close to him, and hand over to Ricard.
Under the Michelin bridge as they make their right-hander onto pit straight. He's had a go at him, and Ricard is at and slipped through the corner. Wow, look how close they are. They're accelerating up now, pit straight. They've just passed us in the box.
Great shot from the Whitman's lightship.
And again, through a hell corner, it is the Primera that takes the lead away from Ricard Rydell. We'll see now the professionalism that needs to come through from the Swedish driver, not to get too carried away with this. Just let this car in front of him go a little bit and settle down to running a lap time that we know he's capable of doing, Richard.
41 laps completed, still 120 laps to go. This really isn't the way to
not the stage of the race where you would really want to have things come unglued, because when you're driving so closely like this against the odds, there is a chance that you can come whipping around one of these corners that are blind, and there'll be a semi-parked car waiting for you in the form of a slower vehicle. And here's the lights flashing on the Primera, coming down into the forest.
And look at this, that's Peter Hills in the yellow and blue Ford Mondeo. That was well up earlier on, and it is currently driven by Tony Scott in 8th position. So the leaders are coming up to lap the 8th position car, and past goes Matthew Neal as as he goes down into Caltech's chase. The Mondeo is going to get there before. Oh, and he moves over and lets everybody through. That's a good bit of driving there. Well done. So Rydell goes through, Murphy goes through, first, second and third, nose to tail. Nissan, Volvo and Vectra on lap 42.
259k by Rob Gravitt. That car, of course, has been in considerable trouble. Cameron McConville, 258, 256 for Cleland in the Vectra. Greg Murphy, 256 as well, and 254 for Stephen Richards.
Tell you what's interesting there, those top speeds, there's no Volvos in there.
Now, I would like to do a bit of grovelling and eat humble pie and apologise to Matt Neal for even daring to suggest that he wasn't going to be as quick as Steve Richards. He's driving a beautifully controlled race. You've seen the way he's fought his way through to the front again.
Brad Jones on screen at the wheel of the number 1 Oryx Audi in 4th position on the track at the present time. Brad, after the rush of the first pit stops, you're now behind the wheel. You must be pretty pleased with your position, just sitting on the heels of those top 3.
Well, Wilco, I'd much rather be them sitting on my heels, but just the way it is at the moment. The car's running really well, and it's all going pretty as planned, as I'd say so far.
Brad, you're happy with your tyre choice? There was a lot of tyre changing at the last pit stop.
Yeah, there was a bit of running around, but I'm pretty happy with the choice we go with. I've just felt it out a reasonable sort of time. Come on. Yeah, the hardest thing's trying to carve your way through traffic across the top here. Everyone's in the race, so you just got to make the most of it. But yeah, the car's going good, Al. I've got to say, so far so good.
Well, you still got a long way to go. You're only on lap 46.
Move. Yeah, we got a long way to go. It's
we better take you off air.
One of those things. It's hard trying to make up time and press on. But anyway, nothing as planned.
Nice bit of passing there, Brad. You seem to be moving around in the car a bit more than when you took me round last year. Are you quite happy? No answer was the certain reply. Now, up front, we've still got Matthew Neal and Ricard Rydell in respectively, as the Malcolm Udy's getting out of the car. Decided his race is run, having to get out across the passenger side, of course.
May have stalled.
Word with the marshal. Right. Get up here, mate, as quickly as you possibly can. Very sensible that, to get the driver off the track. There is a tendency, when you've got out of the car, I've noticed, to walk around it and look at it and see what's wrong with it.
Get away
from it. Totally ignoring the fact that there's cars coming past you very quickly. They seem to think they lead a charmed life.
Well, it's still Neal leading. A little consolation there, and it took place at 4 Tire Power Corner at Forest Elbow, and he obviously just didn't make the left-hander, Murray. Yes, I didn't think Tim Schenken would wait too long to get rid of that car. There's only just enough room to get the cars to get through that corner on the tarmac, and if anyone else was to make a mistake, they would T-bone that parked car on the right-hand side of the circuit. So a wise move from the Clark, of course, to hold the field down. Now, this will be something, Murray, it'll be quite interesting to see what Neal and Rydell do while they have a breather in this situation.
Let's check the top 10. Neal and Richards leading. Rydell and Richards in second. Nissan and Volvo. Then the first of the Vectras, Murphy and Ingle. First of the Audis, Jones and McConville. Warwick and Cleland in the second of the Vectras. Sixth position, Morris and Radicic in the second Audi. Then Nilsson and Harvey, the second Volvo. McLean and Scott, the first of the BMWs. Then the Ford Mondeo of Hills and Beninka. And a second BMW being driven by the Searle brothers occupies 10th position.
There goes Greg Murphy now. This is his chance to break, because look at the number of cars that are behind him before Warwick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's Derek Warwick in the red and white Vectra as Murphy goes across the line. And Warwick is the car to watch now when you see him, because he's going to have to carve his way through traffic.
And look who's pushing Warwick on the inside of him there. Warwick's already been demoted from second to third, and even third to fourth.
And again. Yeah, Derek Warwick losing places as the race rejoins. He won't like that at all. He's a very determined chap, is Derek Warwick. And if I can add to that profile that we've just seen, one of the nicest men I've known in motor racing. And Matthew Neal is the man that went past Derek Warwick Warwick in the Vectra. Matthew Neal on another charge. We've seen how well he can go in that battle he had with Rickard Rydell, which he came out on top of. And Derek Warwick now then behind the Nissan. Meantime, Greg Murphy is pulling away.
We're on board with Derek Warwick, and he's got Cameron McLean in front of him, holding him up a bit, I must say.
There's been a driver change in the meantime. Tony Scott in the yellow BMW at the present moment, number 12. He's replaced Cameron McLean. He's a pretty gifted driver in his own right.
Yes, but his lap times are about 1.5 seconds, 2 seconds a lap off McLean.
And he's one of the people that suffered because of the pace car incident. If only he would have been just a couple of 3 cars further ahead on the track, when the pace car picked up the leader, he'd have caught virtually a whole lap back up. Unfortunately, he was just behind the leader at that point, which was Greg Murphy, and so he's a whole lap down now, and he didn't get the opportunity to catch that lap back up.
That was a pity.
You see how difficult it was to no effort to pass on the mountain because it's so difficult. But now we can expect the Vectra to close up on the BMW as they come down to Caltex Chase and to dodge out behind its boot lead and go through and take the place. And sure enough, he does it. Lovely picture, fabulous picture. Look forward, look sideways, look back. Goodbye, BMW, and wham, bang! Here comes the Audi behind it.
That's Bradley.
Brad Jones taking advantage of that situation there. He let Warwick pave the way for him, and he was going to make use of the gap. And here we are now going left into through Murray's Corner, up onto Pit Straight. And a nice view there of the Audi coming through. We're on board with the Audi now.
Chasing Derek Warwick.
He's chasing Warwick up to Atlantic Corner. Virgin Atlantic Cargo, they help bring these cars out from Europe.
Yes, this is a scheduled pit stop. They didn't take a stop during the safety car when it was out there. And John Cleland, one of the most relaxed motor races I've ever seen, joking around with his pit crew before he went out. Now on the front right is a very familiar name in Australian motor racing. That's Jamie Brock, working on the pit crew for the Vectra. Warwick out. Cleland in. Remember the dramas we had at their last pit change when a fire erupted here. Let's hope we don't see any similar problems. Waiting for the fuel to go in, the 80-litre tank.
They're looking. The fellow on the left is looking across.
Here we go. Yes, this time, Alan, no problems. They took it very, very cautiously with the fuel. And out goes John Cleland.
The 80 car, the Holden Vectra, came into the pits. Let's see it on replay.
Here he comes now, getting ready to change over. A beautiful job by Greg Murphy. He's going to hand over to Russell Murphy. I think, Russell Ingle, sorry. I think Murphy did a superb job in his stint. He should be very proud of that 30-odd laps that he's just completed. They'll throw tires on it. They're not doing any brake work. And they'll need to put maximum fuel into it. There's the vent bottle. That fellow, it's his job to do the screaming when he sees the petrol in the vent bottle. Each looking at each other, the fuel filler looking across at his teammate. There's a lot of rapport goes on between the fuelers. This is not a easy job. It looks simple, but they've got a great responsibility to get those nozzles in and out without any break of the fuel. So there it goes, and Murphy egging on Ingle out of the pits. Don't see that very often. That good team camaraderie there between Ingle and Murphy.
And Ingle is now down to 4th position.
Car 38, it's off at the cutting in almost the same place as the Honda of Rob Gravitt and Lee Brooks.
He's letting it run back under its own gravity. Difficult to tell whether it was a driver error or a brake problem or a bit of both.
He's in a long way there. He's up to the gun.
He won't get out of that. He's got rear-wheel drive, so at least the drive wheels are nearer the hard stuff. But even if they're in soft sand, there's no way he can get out of it.
So the safety car is going out. Car 10 is also parked off the track up there somewhere, the Peugeot 406 of Tony Newman and Mark Williamson. And car 20 has been told to come back into the pits for a stop-go penalty. That's the Odyssey entry, the BMW 320 of Dennis Chapman and Brian Bradshaw.
Derek, 76 laps into the race. Are you happy so far?
Well, not really, no, because we had a bit of a bad fuel stop there. I pulled away and the fuel tower was still plugged in, and we spread fuel all over the pit lane, and unfortunately 2 of our mechanics got a little bit hurt. So for me, you know, the race is a little bit sad if you got a couple of mechanics injured.
And here's a disaster for the number 8 Vectra of Derek Warwick and John Cleland. This, well, they've managed to get it off now, but this was jammed solid, this wheel nut. Have they got it?
I think what's happened is that they've got the clip which helps retain the nut broken probably inside the hub area there.
Might be a bit more than that, Murray.
Yeah.
The way they were trying, the wheel gun wasn't taking the nut off. I think the wheel nut got seized onto the wheel.
Strip the thread.
Yep.
Well, if they strip the thread, that's it, because they won't be able to retain the wheel on the hub with the new nut.
Well, there's frantic activity there, and it has been now for about 2 minutes.
They're throwing it away.
They're getting rid of the whole upright from the look of things.
David Tapp.
It's the sort of thing about motor racing that absolutely breaks your heart, doesn't it? They've had some challenges to contend with today, this team. No sooner had Derek Warwick strapped himself into the car as a result of changing over with the Clennon. They realised that they had this problem on the left front of the car. Warwick immediately shut down the Vectra and is just sitting patiently in the race car at the moment, having a chat with John Cleland. And you know what John Cleland would be doing, don't you? Humouring Derek Warwick, who I reckon would be fuming.
This is a major exercise here going on. There's the McPherson strut that holds the wheel up. The axle is coming out the other side. Obviously, they've got parts to overhaul it in a hurry.
It's
But look at
indicative
that.
of the planning that they've done, that they've got all the necessary parts, race prepared,
This
ready
looks like
to be
a
just
heart
slotted in.
transplant, let alone just a wheel
Here we are,
change.
safety car. Well, the Bathurst 1000 is living up to the excitement that it always offers. In goes the safety car, off goes the race, and the Volvo leads from the Nissan.
With
There
Warwick
they go.
and Cleland 2 laps down.
What's happened is the nuts on the disc have come undone, and the disc is floating back and forward on the hub. Subsequently, no brakes, but the guys, at least this time, they're not on fire.
And here's a stop-go pit. Murray.
Indeed. Now, that car, a real heavy hit that has taken.
This is the Nissan Sentra Triple S from New Zealand. And he's just doing everybody a favor, trying to get the car back out of harm's way. But he's got such a long way to go. He's not going to make it. He's decided to slide over to the edge of the track. He's there in the dipper.
Somewhere on Skyline, he's got out of shape, Alan, and he's made real heavy contact with the wall.
Well, and off goes everybody. That
Robson in the rickshaw entry.
Yeah, another BMW. There's a lot of BMWs in this race. And cars are getting tired, drivers are getting tired, the brakes are getting tired, tyres are getting tired, and here is the proof.
Here's the Nissan Sentra. I've seen this happen before. Win Percy did that exactly.
And yours truly not far away from it either, I have to admit. But that wall stopped him. And he did the right thing by getting it off Skyline, and he stopped it at the best possible place he
Interrupting
could.
you, Alan, the Warwick Cleland car is back on the track.
Oh, here he is too. We can't see which Volvo it is, but we can guess. I can't see the writing on the window, but Murphy's gone.
Can't see which. It's Harvey.
Harvey, Tom Harvey, Tim Harvey.
Tim Harvey
obviously
and Russell Ingall.
Yeah, they've obviously collided while one was trying to pass the other. That's the only conclusion I can come to.
They're in the S's, and this is serious. And Audi's gone.
Yeah, there's oil all over the road up there apparently, and that's from that Sentra that went into the wall and then came to a halt off the top of Skyline.
They've all hit it. Somebody else, if he comes over Skyline too quickly, now pace car out quickly.
Tim Harvey getting out of the car, so that's good. But of course, this transforms the race.
Let's see this again on
Here it is.
replay.
Now let's see what happened.
Oh, what a ride. Ingall doing
Hits
everything he
the oil.
can. And Harvey
There's
doing
Harvey,
everything.
and they couldn't recover, and funnily enough, they didn't hit each other. They hit separate things, but the result was exactly the same.
Yes.
And it's transformed the race now, because it means that Matthew Neal will be leading very strongly in the Nissan, and Brad Jones should move up into second place.
Let's see this again.
Yes, they've hit the oil, Gary, and just done anything they can to take avoiding action here. We see Russell Ingall, the first of them to go through. He's got no steering through the grass, of course. And then look at Tim Harvey doing the same. Once they hit the bitumen, they can't correct fast enough, and the momentum of the car is just taking them straight onto the entire barrier.
Now, I've always been told not to use the word disaster. This isn't a disaster, but it's very, very bad for the Vauxhall team, for the Vectra team, because it means now that that car is, of course, completely out of the race, and we know that the Warwick and Cleland car is way, way down, even though they've managed to replace the parts that were broken.
Tim Harvey saying, well, can't do much. Russell Ingall saying, what do we got in front of us now, mate?
Peter Brock is with Greg Murphy.
What's it feel?
You know how it feels, Pete, I'm sure.
Yeah.
I can't believe it. There's obviously someone's dumped a whole lot of oil out there, and all three of those cars have come unstuck, so there's nothing they could do about it.
There's still one Volvo left in the race. Certainly, effectively, both the Vectras are out, although Derek Warwick and John Cleland will be straining every sinew now that the car is running whole again to fight their way up through the field and at least get a top 6 finish.
A lot of damage to that Volvo, Murray. Look at that wheel is bashed right up against the firewall. They're going to have a repair bill there over the Christmas holidays.
Well, where is it exactly? Here we are. This is the answer.
We're going over Skyline into the S's, and just on the approach, they would have liked to have not hit that tire wall, but once they hit the sand, they were uncontrollable. A very wild ride. I think Russell Ingall had the wildest ride. Tim Harvey was also a passenger through the sand. The momentum, the speed that they've got going over Skyline is quite immense, and even if they do drop it down through the gears, they knew they were in trouble once they hit that oil. The green stuff on the ground is just the radiator water, the colored coolant in the radiator, but look at the oil that they've had to put up with, all those black marks. That's a solid swag of oil which they've hit and been out of control.
Peter Brock knows about debris on the track. He's been around here often enough. He's got some info for us in the pits.
Yes, I know one day I was following a car down Conrod Straight very close behind, and I saw him swerve in front. I found a wheel and tyre lying in the middle of the Conrod Straight. I ran straight over it, destroyed the oil cooler, destroyed my chances of winning this race. That was 1988, driving a little BMW. Now, strangely enough, a very similar thing occurred on top of Skyline. Brad Jones came over there, saw a Conrod and piston lying on the road, no oil to speak of, swerved to miss it, and right behind him was his teammate, Paul Morris. Paul Morris had no room to move, drove straight over it, and was quite stunned to find that the car was handling strangely. It handled strangely because the Conrod and piston punched a hole in the sump. There was oil flying everywhere under the back of that car. But you'll notice if you watch the replay that the car didn't actually spin down out of control or lose its braking power, because the front end was still relatively able to get grip on that bitumen surface. But right behind him, of course, came Russell Ingall and Tim Harvey. They had nowhere to go. They were in a huge pile of oil at the top of Skyline, and it just shows you how close it is between staying on that bit of road and crashing into something very, very hard. It's a very difficult track, this Bathurst one.
And the race restarts. Well, the race was on all the time, to be realistic about it. But what I mean is that the safety car goes in so they can put the pedal to the metal and really go for it again. Now, the crucial time is going to be when they climb up the mountain and then down and get to that point where the two cars went off, where the Vectra went off and the Volvo went off, because although they've hosed the circuit down magnificently, it's probably still a bit slippery there. That glycol is very slippery stuff.
It is, but we're going to congratulate the organisers, Alan Moffat, for a great job they've done here.
Yes, the ARDC safety crew, Murray, they were out there and they had their hose with a good pump on the back of their truck, and I've never seen a hose being used, a fire hose, not a garden hose, trying to wash the track down. That was excellent work by the ARDC.
And just look at the way now Steve Richards is flying, cutting through the traffic, trying to put as much of it as possible between him and his father, Jim Richards, in the Volvo behind him in second place. The Nissan looking very strong. It's completely unmarked. Thus far, it hasn't had any problems that I'm aware of in the race. It's maintaining an extremely good pace.
Well, the one thing Stephen hasn't got, Murray, and that's 5 victories under his belt that his dad's got. And I'm just thinking at this point, 90 laps into the race, Jim Richards will have a real feel for how much effort is needed to get up to 161 laps and that checkered flag.
After 25 starts here, Jim will be just warming up.
Alan, we've had father and son world champions in Formula One, Graham Hill and Damon Hill. We've had Villeneuve father and Villeneuve son winning Grand Prix. Has there ever been a father and son winner at Bathurst?
No, there hasn't. And this is something that everybody will be very fondly remembering, was the start of a new era here for Stephen Richards to keep the family going.
In replay, we see Jim Richards picking up the lead.
Yes, the pride of all these car manufacturers is in the hands of these two drivers, along with Cameron McConville in the Audi that is coming up in third spot. And boy, the pressure is on for them to do a good job. Probably a harder job for the Nissan team. They've only had one car and they've still got it up there. We've lost one Volvo and we've lost one Audi. So here it is at the moment, the leader, Jim Richards, followed by son Stephen, and then Cameron McConville in the lead Audi with Brad Jones.
Magnificent move by Jim Richards too. He's been harrying Stephen, his son, in the Nissan ahead for lap after lap. Now Steve Richards did not crack, but Jim just saw the opportunity to dive through on the inside, and I think that Volvo is definitely quicker. Now let's see what happens.
Back live now, and you can see Jim Richards stretching that lead down on Conrod Straight. Geez, opened it up quite quickly.
Now, I'll tell you something else we all need to be watching. Derek Warwick, he's in 6th position, so he's in the top 6, in that vital top 6. And what's more, he is lapping some 12 seconds a lap faster than Peter Hills in the Mondeo, who's in 5th place. Derek Warwick has already unlapped himself on the Mondeo and is on the same lap. So it's going to be Derek Warwick for 5th position very shortly, I think. Then he'll be going for Tony Scott, but there's 3 laps between him and the BMW. But we've still got such a long way to go. We're on lap 96, 161 lap. We've seen 161 laps in the race. We've seen what can happen at Bathurst already, and there could well be more of it in store for us.
The Vectra crewman that was burned and was taken to hospital has had treatment, and he is back in the pit lane now with these colleagues.
Great. That's great. Great.
Well, that's a day you won't forget. That's very fearful fire, and something that we always have to be extremely vigilant with.
Alan, here is the flying Derek Warwick that I was talking about. Now, he's just lapped in 2 minutes 19 compared with Hill's 2 minutes 24, and the lead cars are lapping at about 2:18.5. So he's slower than the Volvo ahead, he's slower than the Nissan ahead, but he's considerably faster than Hills, and he's going well in relation to the other cars as well. So Derek Warwick is still very, very much in the hunt, as is the Vauxhall Vectra. It was the Holden Vectra that went out with Russell Ingle at the wheel. No mean achievement to change the whole of the left front suspension, the drive line and everything else. What sort of major components have you seen go back into cars which finished well? Quite a few, I guess.
I was going to say the engine, but that was never permitted at Bathurst, but certainly quite a few things. A lot of fellows will do anything to get back in there, and a lot of other people do tend to throw the towel in at the slightest excuse if they can't stay up at the front of the field. So full marks here to Derek Warwick's 888 team, the Vectra cars that they're driving, and he's still in with a hope.
Jim Richards on screen, but Cameron McConville closing quite quickly, doing about a half a second a lap better times at the moment.
Yes, race order, Jim Richards, we're with in the Volvo, Stephen Richards in the Nissan, third is Cameron McConville sharing the Audi with Brad Jones, then the BMW of Cameron McLean and Tony Scott. Peter Hills is 5th, Derek Warwick is catching him in the Vectra, 6th place.
And here's Jim on Conrad throwing his S40 down through the 6-speed gearbox. He'll take it up to 8,500 RPM and pull just around 265 kilometers. At about this point, fades a little bit to the left to get a better angle there through the Caltex chase. Under brakes now, down to about 2nd gear for this left-hander. Then a nice tight right-hander. He's got a slower car. I was going to say parked car, hardly parked. And down now into Murray's corner for the left-hander onto pit straight.
And Steve Richards' last lap was a 2:18.4, which accounts for the closing of the gap Here is the race leader. We're looking through underneath that anti-glare strip that they have at the top of the windscreen for pretty obvious reasons. It's still a bright, bright blue sky, blazing sunshine here at Mount Panorama. The bad weather that was forecast at one time hasn't happened, and certainly doesn't look as though it's going to happen. It's going to be another great race in superb weather all the way. Through the Caltex chase, down to complete the lap. Now, it'll be interesting to see the gap this time. I remind you that at the end of the previous lap, and this is lap 101 with 60.60 to go, the gap was 3.4 seconds. There is Stephen Richards, and it looks a lot closer to me now. Jim Richards has gone across the line, and the gap is down to, well, it's reduced. I'm just waiting for the gap to come up on the computer now. It's about just over 3 seconds. So Stephen is closing the gap.
3.3 seconds, and with Stephen closing on Jim Richards, Steve's co-driver Matt Neal is with Peter Brock.
Matt, car's been running exceptionally well, and 3 seconds off the pace. How are you feeling?
Yeah, we're feeling good. We're feeling the car's running to plan at the moment. We've had a couple of niggly little problems, but we're hanging on in there with the Volvo.
Is there a possibility of anything unscheduled coming up? Anything that concerning the boys at the moment?
We hope not. Ideally, we're just down for one more fuel stop and tyre change, and then that's it for the end of the race.
Now we're riding with the car in 4th position. It's Tony Scott at the wheel of the BMW. This is the car that won the race last year. There's 3 cars stopping him from being likely to do so at the present moment. Cameron McConville, who's ahead of him in the Audi, in 3rd place. Steve Richards and Jim Richards. Look at the telemetry. Watch the revs on this engine as they build going down Conrod Straight. And look at that speed graphic. 250 k's and over in top gear. Down goes the speed as he goes down through the gears into 3rd gear for Caltex Chase. It'll go up again as he accelerates away into the straight, down to Murray's Corner. 4th gear, on go the brakes. Swing left, down goes the speed. 90-50.
Yes, he's going to hit the pit lane here, Murray. He's ready for the changeover back to Cameron McLean. He's got to keep it at 60 through the pit lane, so just a little creep here. It looks like we could walk faster. Now the team ready for him, the Greenfield Mowers team, saying stop. He's done that. He'll be a fairly tired boy. He's been in there a long time. But surely changeover now to McConville. Sorry, to McLean.
I'll tell you.
Doesn't seem to be doing it. Don't see a driver.
Pat Walsh is down there.
There they go now.
Well, if they don't change now, he'd be overstaying his welcome, as Craig Baird did last year in the BMW.
Yeah, and I'll tell you who this is going to help. It's going to help Peter Hills, this car, and Derek Warwick's car.
An excellent stop, Murray. I think you'll find they'll be back out there very promptly. And now we've got McLean back at the wheel. The lead driver in his
trickling
team.
Down the pit lane,
yes,
speed limit.
Very careful here. He can't go over 60. He's doing 55, 57, 58. Well, I don't think he'll get pinged now. He's out on he's on the exit to the pit lane. Here's Mountain Straight looking at him in the square in the eye now.
And in comes the booster.
Yeah, left-hand drive already, and I'm going to say already he's up to 170k. He's in 4th gear. Cabin temperature 28 degrees. He's on 7,500, almost 8,000 RPM. He's going to hold it in 5th before he breaks for this right-hander.
Let's just pause for a minute and have a listen to this car as he punts it across up to the top and across the top of Mount Panorama. great ride through there, Alan.
Well, he's doing well. He's a little bit tentative on his opening lap, and so he should be. He wants to get some heat into the tires, but now he'll start hammering it on Conrad Murray. He's up to fourth already.
That's tentative, is it, Alan? You could fool me.
105 laps. The gap is closing up front again. Jim Richards still holding sway in the Volvo, but Stephen Richards in the Nissan Primera has closed it down to 1.1 seconds.
Now, how could he have done that? All sorts of reasons. Maybe Jim Richards has got a problem that we don't know about with the car, although it can't be a very grave one because his lap times are not coming down a great deal. Maybe the tyres are going off on the Volvo and not so much on the Primera. We heard Matt Neal saying that the car was beautifully balanced. They hadn't got any problems at all, and the fastest laps are very, very close indeed. Indeed, Steve Richards' lap is just 0.2 of a second faster than his father in front. The gap has gone up a bit, funnily enough, to 2.7 seconds.
They've both just done their fastest lap of the race.
Yeah, thank you for that. And that's on lap 105.
Tracy Holmes is with Russell Ingall.
Russell, unfortunately, the Vectra is out after a terrible accident around the S's. We actually have some footage of what happened. If you can talk us through it and how it all came about.
Sure.
I guess the first one we see is the Nissan crashing into the wall.
Yeah, exactly right. Well, this is the peanut that caused all the damage, and he's kept going. And what's happened is apparently a part of the engine or suspension has been left on the track, and he's kept driving the thing instead of parking it. One of the Audis you'll see there is hit it, breaks the oil cooler and split the sump apparently, dumped all oil all over the track. I've hit it, come through, same with the Volvo, and bang. Jeez, it was a decent hit, wasn't it?
This is race cam from Derek Warwick's Vectra, closing on Peter Hills in the Ford Mondeo for 5th position.
Yeah, Derek Warwick is driving an absolute storm of a race, as I said earlier on. I remind you that he's been into the pits with the knowledge that his teammate Russell Ingall is out after that terrific crash. We've just heard from Russell. And Derek is not only in the top 6, he's vying for that 5th place. He's been taking great lumps out of the lead ahead of him of Peter Hill's Mondeo. Very different motor cars, of course. The Hill's Mondeo is an independently run car, and Derek Warwick's is very much a works effort. Currently running 5th is Derek Warwick, because Derek Warwick has got ahead of the... He looks sideways at me so he can hear me. Derek Warwick, he can hear me. Can you hear me, Derek? No, he can't. He's just waving coincidentally. Well, he's up into 5th position. He's getting down to it with all the grit and determination that you would expect from this very determined Hampshireman. He's fought his Vauxhall Vectra up into 5th position. Blue flags waving there. But Jim Richards now has got his son Steve just 1.5 seconds behind him. This is the 109th lap in this 161 lap Bathurst 1000. There is still more excitement to come, of that I have absolutely no doubt.
The Whitman's Lightship high over the Mount Panorama circuit in Bathurst for the 1998 AMP 1000. Camera on the Lightship zooming down onto pit lane, and as it gets closer you will spy car number 71. This is the Mazda 626 that is leading the production car category, being driven by Phil Kirkham and Matt Lehman.
Here we are, Cameron McConville in the Audi, which he's sharing with Brad Jones. He's in 3rd position. You'll remember that Paul Morris in the other Audi, which he was sharing with Paul Radicic, was unfortunate enough to hit that debris after the Volvo and the Vectra collided and took out part of the sump and the oil cooler, and that was the problem that took out the Morris car. But the other Audi is going extremely well, and we're with it now.
Just had a message on the internet, Alan, from David Besnard, who's been a top Formula 4 driver last several seasons here in Australia. He's in the USA. He's following the race on the internet. He just wanted to let us know that he's just won the USF 2000 championship. He's racing for BMW USA next week in the Petite Le Mans 1000 mile race, and then off to UK for the Formula Ford Festival there. So he's having fun following the race here, and he's also doing very well on the track.
Well, we wish you luck in your career, David. You're in the right part of the world to be making points, and good luck with your BMW drive.
Yeah.
But we're on board now with the Audi in the driver's seat, so to speak. with Cameron McConville coming on to Conrod Strait. This is fabulous pictures, terrific technology coming through here, being beamed up to the Channel 7 helicopter and to everyone around the world. Under the AMP bridge, up to about 265K, a little bit to the left here over the white line, comes through close on. He wants to pass this guy, nail it under brakes, down through the gearbox into second gear, and accelerate through the exit of the chase. And then down to your favorite corner, Murray, the bottom of Conrod.
There's been a change as we go to tape replay.
Yes, this is going to be very interesting here in a second. Watching Stephen coming up here. He's very close now. He's alongside Jim. Jim's got the corner, unless Stephen swings in front of him, and it looks like he's thinking about doing it. A bit cheeky. He might have thought, well, Dad won't hit me. He may not have done that with any other competitor. That was a pretty nifty little move, but Jim's elected to let him go. Some interesting windows opening here. These fellows are both on lap 30 and lap 32 of their fuel strategies. They're going to have to start thinking about stopping. Stephen may be wanting just to get a bit of a gap on the Volvo before he has to stop for his last stop.
Expected to come in probably about 4 more laps, 5 at the max.
Well, it was gentleman Jim Richards who once again maintained unsullied his reputation for not hitting people. A lot of people would have refused to yield when Stephen moved over. There was nothing wrong about what Stephen did, and as a result of that, the Nissan is again leading the Bathurst 1000. These two cars started together on the front row of the grid, and that was 120 laps ago. 41 laps to go, including the lap they're on. And look how close it is. I thought last year's Bathurst 1000 was a thriller. This one is every second just as good.
Murray, these Aussies make good race drivers, don't you think?
I never said they didn't. I remember Jack Brabham, 3 times world champion, and many others, not the least of whom was Alan Jones.
Exactly. But here we are on Conrod again, and it's Jim Richards now having to find a way. He wants to be thinking about finding a way to get closer to his son's Nissan,
which is stretching away from him, actually. I mean, it was the Nissan to the front on the previous lap, and car 30 here in the pits is that of Troy Searle and Luke Searle. They're doing extremely well. Indeed, they are in 7th position. They took that place away just a few laps ago. And the brother's undoing his other brother's shoulder straps there to help him out of the car. First of all, Matthew Neal in the Nissan Primera. Right at Steve Richards in the Primera, waiting to hand over to Matthew Neal. Right behind them is the Volvo. They're going to be stopping altogether, and Jim Richards is going to be handing over to Rickard Rydell. So this pit stop could decide the Bathurst 1000. Out of the car gets Steve Richards. Matthew Neal wrinkles his long frame in. He's got to change the seat and the steering wheel. Meantime, behind them, the Volvo crew are working frantically on the car. Rickard Rydell into his car. He's going to have to change the steering wheel as well. There it goes. On goes the steering wheel from Rickard Rydell. The seconds are ticking away. Is he going to be able to get out of the pits in front of the Nissan? Cleaning the windscreen, the Nissan crew in front of him are working. There they are.
He's done it.
And the Volvo gets away. And into the lead goes Rickard Rydell, and the Nissan is still there.
Yes, that's going to cost him dearly. They had the bonnet open. They were throwing oil in the Nissan, but strategically, the Volvo put else got a very, very safe car underfoot, and he can hammer it now to the lead.
And here's the new leader on the track, the number 1 Audi, Cameron McConville at the wheel.
So maybe you didn't expect that, because you thought it was going to be either the Nissan or the Volvo. Wrong, because Cameron McConville was hanging on there in the Audi, and he's up front with Rickard Rydell second, and behind him is Matt Neal in the Nissan.
With Rydell at the wheel for Volvo, Jim Richards has just got out of the car. He's with David Tapp.
In this form of endurance racing, Jimmy, pit stops always important. That was a cracker from your team.
Well, yeah, that's what they're good at. They've been doing the British Championship, which they've got to stop and change 2 tyres in the second race, and they do it in about 6 seconds. So that's their forte, and they did a brilliant job.
that was something that came into play in the British Touring Car Championship this year for the first time, and there's no doubt it has helped the teams, because last year they found themselves lacking in that area.
Yes, I think it's put a new dimension into it. I mean, everyone likes to see a pit stop, see how the crews work, get them involved as well. I think it's a great idea.
Well, one thing I can tell you is McConville still has to make another pit stop, so almost certainly when he comes out of that pit stop, will be a Volvo in the lead in the next lap or two.
Yeah, it's certainly a short-lived glory here for him, but nevertheless, they've done very well with this car. McConville and Brad Jones, they've kept it going. Two-car team. They lost one. Paul Morris, unfortunately, picked up some debris and lost his car. Engine went out on that one, but credit to the preparation here. This one is still running strong, in the lead at the moment, but as Richard has said, it does have to stop for its final changeover to Brad and tires and gas.
Paddy Walsh now with Stephen Richards.
Yes, take your well-earned drink. And Lenny got a brand new set of tyres, which I know you're hoping the team won't need.
No, we're just being prepared, ready, just in case.
38 laps when you made that change, and you're obviously hoping now that this is the last time you have to get into the car.
Yes, definitely. Our plan now is for Matt to come over the finish and greet the checkered flag.
It's been nip and tuck out there, a daring move to get past that.
Well, I could see he was obviously struggling with his tyres, and I thought I didn't want to really get held up. It would have been nice to have a bit of a gap going into the last stint, so I just pressed on for a bit, and Michelin tyres were fantastic, and Nissan Primera was there.
Leave you there, Paddy, because the Audi's coming in. The race leader, Cameron McConville, to hand over to Brad Jones.
Yeah, the race leader coming in, and what's more, the Nissan has got some bodywork flapping. David Tapp.
Murray, this will need to be the quickest stop this team has ever done. Bradley Jones now has himself in the car. Obviously, McConville is giving him a hand in getting strapped in. We'll just keep our eyes now on the main straight, and we're going to have a change of lead as car number 40, driven by Radishius Plus, Rickard Rydell, now hits the front. And the Audi team doing their level best to get the car back out onto the racetrack. It's got some fender damage too.
Here it is, the Volvo's just gone round. It's going to be mighty, mighty close. But in case you missed me saying that, the Nissan has got some bodywork flapping. So, there is the Nissan, and you can see on the right-hand side, or you will when it comes towards us, that there is something flapping. I don't think it's anything that matters too much, as Brad Jones connects up the pipe there.
And returns to the track in third place.
And returns to the track in third place then, behind Rickard Rydell in the Volvo and Matt Neal in the Nissan. There it is, there you can see on the right-hand side of the car. On the left-hand side as it comes towards you and you look at it, I think it's just probably a bit of rubber seal or something.
No, it's the right front mudguard or wing as you would call it, Murray. Fender to the American audience, and it's just flapping in the breeze, but Clark, of course, could get a little bit nervous here if he thought that could break off. The lesser things than this have been flapping around on cars that have been up at the front, and they've had to be pulled in under what we call the meatball. That's the dangerous flag.
Headlights blazing. I'm coming through. Move over. I'm in a desperate hurry. Let me through. And no wonder he's in a desperate hurry, because he's in second place, vying for that first position. It would be the first time a Nissan obviously had won the 2-litre Bathurst 1000, or is it going to be a Volvo? Out of the race goes the Damien Digby Paula Elstrick car.
Yes, that's the one of the Mondeo team, the Peter Hill's Mondeo team. They've been in and out of strife half a dozen times today, but that looks terminal.
So let me finish. People say you never finish your stories, but I walked into the garage and there was one man working on his Formula Ford car, which he'd trailered down from Scotland. It was Tom Walkinshaw, and now he's a multi-millionaire with his own jet plane and all the rest of it.
Yes,
and here are we sitting in the commentary box.
Yeah, talking about it, Murray.
So Paula Elstrick demonstrates her athletic prowess by running away from the car. Words with the marshal. She sounds quite happy. Well, she's done, they have done, their car, 132 laps. And hats off again to the organisers. Straight on comes the car to pull it away.
Let's have a look how it happened.
She's running wide through McPhillamy, just no chance of making the corner. She decided, look, I'm not going to make it, so I might as well hit the gravel, and she safely plunked it there, rather ignominiously, but nevertheless probably wise, not trying to fight it at the attack angle that she came in on.
That's where the fence used to be that made Bill Brown famous.
It'd be a decision.
Safety car deal, do you think?
Well, it could be.
Matt Neal now in the second place car, the Nissan. His father, of course, Steve Neal, is the team manager. He's with Paddy Welch.
Gary, thank you very much, and we've been talking tactics, and all not lost down here. You've got it pretty well mapped out, haven't you, Steve?
Yeah, well, we're going according to plan, and that's really what we want to do. We figure that Ricard needs to push real hard in the early part of his final session, and our objective is to make him do that by putting him under pressure. And towards the end of the session, the Volvo will start to have its tyres deteriorate, and that's when we can start to push him really hard and maybe get past him.
So this is really going to close things up. Matthew Neal at the present moment is 14.5 seconds behind Ricard Rydell, who's been working so hard to build that lead, and he's going to see most of it frittered away now, depending on where Matthew Neal is in terms of cars between the two lead cars, the Volvo and the Nissan.
You can be sure of one thing, Murray, it will cost him, and it's just a pity. I thought that Jeep might have been able to pull that car up, but it's really bogged. They needed a tractor. Formula One, of course, they'd have great big cranes, and they'd just come down with a magnetic picker.
Well, almost. Yeah.
You're looking at the view out of the back of the pace car, still on the track for another 3 parts of a lap here at Mount Panorama. We've got Volvo leading, Nissan leading Audi. We spoke to Brad Jones. David Tapper's in the pit lane now with Kim Jones.
Thank you, Gary. I'm now with the Audi team manager. Very nervous times. I recall speaking to you at about this time last year. How do you think you're poised compared to 1997 at this stage?
Well, 1997's over and done with, and we're on to 1998, so I suppose that's the only one that counts. We're still there. We've got a strategy and a plan, and we can run till the end now. I don't know about the others. They're going awful quick to be going to run 37 or 38 laps on a tank of fuel, so we'll wait and see.
Off goes the safety car, and on goes Ricard Rydell. And now Matthew Neal has got to get past that BMW. Let's hope he doesn't get in the way, because now this is the opportunity for Ricard Rydell to get the loud pedal down and go for it. And Matthew Neal's up into second position. Behind him, the Vauxhall Vectra of Derek Warwick, who is actually John Cleland, who is in fifth position, and he is 2 laps down on the car in front of him, but he's hanging on because he's trying to improve his position. That's the car that's been in and had the whole of the left side suspension system and driveline replaced, and he's pushing Matthew Neal very hard indeed. But meantime, Ricard Rydell, I cannot speak too highly of how well this quiet Swede has driven, and I wouldn't be at all surprised if we don't get a fastest lap from him.
Yes, he got a tremendous break there, Murray, and I absolutely agree with you. We've seen a lot of foreign drivers come to Bathurst over the last number of decades, and I have to say I'm extremely impressed with this young fellow. He has to be the pride of the Volvo team, and someone that they certainly can be very proud of. He speaks enormously well. I wish I could speak Swedish as well as he speaks English, but he's not worried about his English at the moment. He wants to extend this gap over Neal in the Primera. He really had a bit of a worry there under the pace car that the Nissan might try and get a jump on him, but it wasn't to be.
Yeah, it would have been very bitter for him if he hadn't been able to do so, because he was 15 laps ahead of Neal. So 15 seconds ahead of him when the safety car came out, and it would have been pretty rough justice if he'd lost the race. He may well still do so, of course, because we're on lap 140. There's still 21 laps to go, including the one that they're on. So now is this going to meet the safety car out again? I can't see who's hiding in that cloud of sand, dust, and where his position is in relation to the track. I think he's all right. He's on the inside of the track.
The little Honda has buried himself.
Wayne Johnson and Maurice O'Reilly.
Well, we might get a replay on that.
But I don't think it's going to interfere with things, Alan, from the look of it.
I think he's safely on the inside of the chase, Murray. The clerk, of course, may deem it safe enough to leave him there. He's still trying to get out, but I think he's just digging himself in deeper.
Yes.
He's had an oops as he's come through the right-hander at the chase and wiggled off the track.
But it just shows how effective, as I said earlier on, these sand traps here at Mount Panorama are, because he's well and truly bogged down, and it's only going to be a tractor and a lifeline that pulls him out.
He's not in a brilliant position. A lot of cars...
Safety cars coming out again. So Ricard Rydell, having come in 15 seconds ahead, extends his lead when the safety car goes in, only for it to happen again.
Here's how it happened.
Oh, boy.
Oh, he was nudged. He was pushed off. He was pushed off.
Lucky not to get collected. He just was a passenger and the sand there, but because of the speeds at which these cars come through, the Keltex chase, the Clark, of course, is mandatory. He has to remove that car.
And it's still hard work, Bradley, but there's still a few laps to unwind yet.
Yeah, it's still a little way to go yet, Wilco. I seem to be getting closer, which is a good thing.
You can do it, Brad. Just keep saying to yourself, I can do it.
Thanks for the tip, Murray.
Well, the way things are happening on the track, Brad, anything can happen. We had a very close call a minute ago with the Honda Integra. That could have been much nastier than it turned out. So don't count your chickens yet. You've still got 20 laps.
Oh, that's exactly right, Alan. Don't worry, I won't be giving up till the last corner. This is probably as close as I've been all day, and it's an amazing race. I mean, there's really been only maybe 5 seconds between these two at the front, and we've been lurking all day, and it's not it's not the way I'd like to win, but we're there. There's 20 laps to go, anything can happen.
But what a cliffhanger we've got now. In comes the safety car, and and Matthew Neal right up. Now he realises that this is his moment, but then Rickard Rydell will know exactly the same thing. It's a clear track for Rydell. It's not a clear track for Matthew Neal. Behind them is John Cleland in the Vauxhall Vectra. He is down in the race in 5th position, 2 laps behind the Nissan, but looking to make up time. And Rickard Rydell has got an enormous responsibility now, but this very quiet Swede can more than carry it. Yes, he's the British champion this year, and he knows that he's got the chance of winning the Bathurst 1000. I'm quite sure that quite apart from the prestige, which would be enormous, because touring car racing is big time in Sweden. He's a hero already. He can't go out in the streets of Stockholm without everybody badgering him for photographs and autographs. And there's a massive financial prize, of course, if he wins this race.
Yes, carrying the pride of Volvo here. They would dearly love to win this greatest race. They haven't done that before. They've just come into the championship over the last couple of years and put a great, shall we say, pathfinding exercise with George Shepard. And now with the full-blown factory team, here's Rydell showing the Nissan Primera of Matt Neal to hold him off on these closing stages.
17 laps to go, including the one that they are on.
The laps unwinding, and of course the second team car, car number 4, went out earlier with that disaster on lap 83, 84, when it went into the wall. Tim Harvey took a really heavy knock. He was taken to hospital for observation. He's returned to the track. He's with Paddy Welsh.
Yes, Gary, Tim has literally just this minute arrived back at the track. First and foremost, how are you?
Yeah, I'm okay. You know, nothing lasting, but very sore across the back of my shoulders and damaged the crown jewels a little bit as well. But
which has caused a bit of mirth in the team, but you're obviously feeling it. You've had a chance, as you said, up at Bathurst Hospital to see a replay on our Channel 7 telecast.
Yeah, I just saw the replay, and I didn't realise what had happened. I knew there was oil down, but obviously the sequence of events with the Audi hitting the drive shaft, and, well, we just had no chance.
I know, it was a horrific accident up there, and it virtually destroyed the top 10, as we said, didn't it?
Well, yeah, the annoying thing is that I just got in the car, and my engineer had said, you know, you can push as hard as you like, and the car felt fantastic, and did a good lap time the lap before. I was looking forward to a good stint.
You've obviously been keeping an eye on the telecast back there, and you can see the performance of Jim and Rickard, and obviously that's heartened you a little.
Well, it has. You know, nothing could be better than to see Volvo win this race, and you know, I'm sure they're going to do it. Rickard won't make a mistake, and he's quick enough to stay in front. You know, and the car is reliable. I'm sure he'll win. We're heading for a 10th finish. I just hope that nothing is damaged as you head into your wedding, because that's very shortly, isn't it? Yeah, I've got to ring and give the good news and the bad news. I hope the good news is that we won, and well, the less we say about the other, the better. Harvey, thank you very much. Thanks very much.
10 laps remaining in this year's great race at Mount Panorama. This is the BMW of Cameron McLean, car number 12, but the excitement really is at the front, where Rickard Rydell in car number 40, the Volvo S40, continues to lead the race, but the gap is almost zero because Matt Neal in the Nissan Primera car 34 is getting right onto his tail.
And there it is. That is Matt Neal. Now, Richard Hay, you were making a wonderfully ironic point. I was talking about Steve Richards being in line for the Nissan Primera Works Drive next year, and you said...
I'll tell you what, someone else who wouldn't mind it'd be Matt Neal.
And Matt Neal is in that car now, and you're absolutely right.
He's pushing him now, Murray. He is pushing him. He's in the slipstream. Not quite. He gets a little bit close. Plenty of cars there to get in the slipstream, that's for sure.
If somebody gets the traffic wrong, this could change the lead. But Rydell is past those two slower cars. So is Matthew Neal. They deferred to them. Rydell passes another one. There's our helicopter shadow giving us wonderful pictures. And look at the way Rydell is going through the field. And Matthew Neal goes through on the inside as they turn into the left-hander here at the Caltex chase. Wow, this is great stuff. And we've only got 11 laps to go.
Neal can smell this Volvo. He can see that back bumper bar. This has really got him going now. Easy on the brakes. This has been his Achilles heel, going nicely through there this time. Good one. He's holding him. So up through the gears to Hell Corner. Right-hander up Mountain Straight. They both have to come through here nicely.
And this is the sort of dogfight that could play right into the hands of Brad Jones, too, in third place.
Absolutely, absolutely, Gary. If anything goes wrong with these two, Brad Jones could finish second or even win the great race of 1998 at Bathurst. If you'd scripted this race, Gary, that it would have been rejected as too fanciful for words. But the race wasn't scripted, it is very much for real. Across the line they go again. What's the gap this time? It's increasing 2.1 seconds, so it's gone up from 1.1 seconds to 1.6 seconds to 2.1 seconds, and Rickard Rydell has just done the fastest lap of the race. The first in under 2 minutes 18 seconds, 2 minutes 17.9, just 1.1 seconds slower than Jason Plato's all-time 2-litre lap record last year.
And here is third place man Brad Jones.
Now 15 seconds behind this titanic battle for the lead. So Brad, as he forecast, is suffering from the extra weight of the Audi. They had a trick strategy which doesn't seem to have benefited them as much as they would have hoped. Wow! Matthew Neal now virtually on the rear bumper of the Volvo as they cross the line to complete 158 laps. So there's 3 laps to go, including this one. Has there ever been a closer Bathurst 1000 than this?
No, there isn't. The gap the computer's showing 000, which says there's no gap between them. We can see there is one existing. But boy,
there's traffic. Remember what Stephen said. There's the traffic, and that looks to me like the Troy Searle BMW number 30 that's ahead of them, which isn't ahead now of Rickard Rydell or Matthew Neal.
Right again over onto the right-hand side of the circuit. He comes through on the inside, lets it flow out to the outside. Doesn't want to mill. Boy, he didn't miss the wall much by then.
This is a sprint race finish after 1,000 kilometres. But I've said before, I'll say it again, catching is one thing, getting past is quite another.
Yes, he hasn't had to resort to defensive driving yet. Riddell is very wisely working on the principle that every lap that he can go at full pace will keep the Nissan at bay.
Whoa!
Well, yeah.
Mighty close that was.
It's getting ragged here at the top, but both these fellows know that they've got their whole 1,000 kilometers at stake here. They really do want to bring both of these cars home. I don't think you can say that anybody loses this car. It's just that one of them's going to come second. Can't blame him.
Yeah, he's being held up, definitely. Now, this is Matthew Neal's opportunity, but Rydell gets through, and now Neal has got exactly the same problem. It's the Mazda that's temporarily held them up. He sees them come big in his mirrors. That could be it.
This is bad.
This is bad news for Matthew Neal. He's being held. Look at this. He's swarming about all over, and he's passed. Blue flags waving. But Rickard Rydell will have exploited that opportunity to the full, and that could well have decided the result of the Bathurst. It was the Honda Integra that's got back on the track. Wayne Johnson and Maurice O'Reilly's car.
Bad luck there, Murray. That truly, that Integra driver, he should have been looking in the rearview mirror. It would have been sporting for him to let the lead cars through. I think he'll get a little kick in the pants.
But sadly, that won't help Matthew Neal.
It won't help at all. Let's take a look at Our Faye saw that down in the pits. She just can't believe it.
Oh, here's the rear tire coming off. And, broken rear suspension on the Faber-Castell car. This is the Bob Holden entry. Last lap.
And he's drawing out. This is the last lap. Brad Jones looks as though he's going to finish third. Cameron McLean fourth in the BMW. John Cleland is fifth at the present moment. Peter Hills is sixth. Can a last-minute dash by Matthew Neal close the gap? I don't think so, because the race has been ruined for Matthew Neal by the Wayne Johnson Morris O'Reilly Honda Integra getting in the way.
Yeah, 3 seconds the gap there, and it's over 2 seconds that Honda cost him just through that small section of the circuit.
Rotten luck.
Everybody's entitled to the track, I know that, but I think really it would have behooved that Honda driver just to be thinking that he was getting very close to the end of the race and that the leaders were coming up on him.
Well, as Rickard Rydell comes into the closing stages of the last 161st lap of the 1998 Bathurst 1000, let's reflect what a wonderful season it's been for this quiet Swedish driver. He won the British Touring Car Championship absolutely brilliantly after 4 years with the Volvo team, and for him to win at Bathurst would be very much the icing on the cake. No race wants to be won more by any driver in the touring car category than the Bathurst 1000. And down into Conrod Straight for the 161st and very last time, looking as safe as houses, unless something catastrophic happens to his motor car, comes Rickard Rydell into the Caltex chase, right and left for the last time.
What a dominant performance, pole position, fastest lap, and now coming out of the chase for the final time in the lead.
Yes, and Matthew Neal has closed up, but it's too late, and that was Cameron McLean's BMW. Has it flown up on the last lap in fourth position? Well, here is the winner. Rickard Rydell and Volvo win the Bathurst 1000 from Matt Neal, and Jim Richards has made it sixth. And Stephen Richards finishes second with Matt Neal. All of them can be very, very proud indeed.
The gap just 1.99 seconds, under 2 seconds, and but for the traffic. But that's the kind of race that
Brad Jones
over the line in third. Brad Jones.
A very valiant third. They pressed on all day. I think they can be proud of their endeavors, disappointed as they may be, but third on the podium. This will be okay.
Mum's still looking nervously. Jim's got a great big smile on his face. Number 6, congratulations.
Well, yeah, no, it's great. I mean, it's a good race to win, and especially for Volvo, because they've backed the Super Touring Series for the last 4 years in Australia, and it's good that they get a good reward. But the Nissan team, Steve and Matt Neal, I mean, listen, it could have been anyone's race, and that with 1 lap to go, that slower car, I mean, who knows what could have happened. But, you know, they deserve it as much as we do, but, hey, there's only one winner.
Faye, you're in a win-win situation, and you were still chewing your fingernails.
Oh, it was a bit nerve-wracking those last few laps, I must admit. Probably, I mean, just so close, and just hoping that both of them will finish, you know, passing those slower cars, hoping they'll get by okay. And they did.
Well, we all know you've got a very talented husband on the racetrack, but obviously you've got a talented son as well.
Oh, yes, he's proved to me over the years he can do it, so I don't worry about him now.
I think you probably want to go over and say hello to Steve and congratulate him, and I know David Tapp is over there with him at the moment. Congratulations to both of you.
Pat, thank you very much. What an emotional roller coaster for you. A gut-wrenching final couple of laps. You've finished second. Your dad's won his 6th Bathurst. Very special.
Yeah, for sure. I suppose you look at it like that. But unfortunately, at the moment, we're looking at it like we've been beaten by Volvo, and it's probably one of the closest finishes in the history of the race. So congratulations to Volvo. They've done a fantastic job. And I'd really like to thank our guys, Team Dynamics crew, and obviously the Nissan Primera today, because it was absolutely fantastic.
Jim Richards is Gentleman Jim, there's no doubt about that, but there was no quarter asked nor given between he and Steve out there today. They provided some of the greatest racing that we've ever seen here at Mount Panorama, as did Jim's co-driver in the number 40 Volvo, Rickard Rydell. He was the fastest man here early in the week, and he proved it again today.
It was really great to come back here this year. I came here last year. Jim showed me around in a road car, and I just fell in love with the track straight away. I just to come back here this year was a great opportunity, and to drive with Jim you can't find a better co-driver for sure. And, this was the best. This was probably the best and hardest race I won, and it's thanks to Jim and all the team. The team and the crew did a really good job. We were fastest in the pit stop. We got everything done very quickly. So very pleased.
The winners of the great race, Jim Richards and Rickard Rydell for Volvo. Where's the champagne? Race time just under 7 hours. A sensational performance. Especially when you consider that we had 5 pace cars on the track. We had so many incidents in the race, but a fitting result. For Volvo first, Nissan second, Audi third, but the great prize goes to Jim Richards and Rickard Rydell in the 1998 AMP Bathurst 1000.